This video is for topic 5.2, which is different forms of linear equations, day 2. So the bell work asks you to take this equation and put it in slope-intercept form, which means solve for y. In order to solve for y, we move x to the other side through the opposite operation. So a positive turns into a negative, so it will cancel. We are left with y over here. X and 0 are not the same term, so we rewrite them separately. So my slope-intercept form is what we just did. Y equals negative 2x. You can put plus 0 or you don't have to put anything. My slope is what's with x, and then my y-intercept is the 0, 0. So remember, you don't have to put the 0 if you don't want to here. Some people like to put it so that they know that it actually is 0, not that they accidentally left off part of the problem. But if you put y equals negative 2x, you would not be wrong. Now they ask us to determine the best linear equation and graph the following. So problem 2 says a line with a slope of negative 2. So we have an m value and a y-intercept of 3. We have a b value. If we have an m and a b, we should go ahead and use the form that has m and b in it. So when we write our equation, my m is negative 1/2 and b is 3. In order to graph this, I start here, my y-axis, and then my slope of negative 1/2 means go down 1 to the right 2, down 1 right 2, down 1 right 2, down 1 right 2. I can also go up into the left, up 1 left 2, and then I draw my line. I'm not very good at drawing lines on this iPad, so that's why I put all those points. You don't have to fulfill the whole entire thing. Make sure you cross the x and y axis before you give up. Problem 3 asks us for a line that goes through a point and has a slope. So because we have a point and a slope, it would be really wise of us to use point slope. When we use point slope, we label our point x1 and y1. Remember that when we have slope intercept, we have the y and the x left. So we will leave the y and the x alone, and we will plug in an m value, an x1, and a y1. When I plug in, my points become the opposite. So y plus 4, because that is the opposite of a negative 4, equals my slope of 4/5 x minus my point of 5. So again, I just want to point out, notice how your point 5 became negative, negative 4 became positive. From here, we have to solve for y. So I distribute 4/5 times x. 4/5 times negative 5 is a negative 4. And then in order for me to graph, I need y completely by itself. So I need to move the negative 4. Remember, I'm not putting it with the x because it's not an x, it's a number. So 4/5 x minus 8. Now, in order to graph, we didn't really need this. We could have plotted this point at 5, negative 4. And then used our slope of 4/5 to go up 4, right 5, or down 4, left 5. And that would have also given us the equation. However, we solved it, so y equals 4/5 x minus 8 is my slope-intercept form. So we went from point slope, solved for y, which you should have practiced yesterday, so it shouldn't be that terrible. But you could also graph the point, use your slope to continue, and we were given our slope of 4/5. The y-intercept we found at negative 8, and then the x-intercept, we can see it after the fact at 10, 0. So remember, in order to graph, we didn't have to convert. However, if you struggle with graphing a point and a slope, it might be better for you to go ahead and convert. Now we have another problem, a slope of 2, so m equals 2. And then a 0 of 5 means the point 5, 0. Remember, 0 means x-intercept. So right there is our x-intercept. Now again, this one would be really good for us to use because we have a point and a slope to use point slope. And we can plug in. So we would have y minus 0 equals 2x minus 5. And if we forgot how to graph with a point and a slope, we could solve this for y. However, as we just talked about, you don't have to convert to be able to graph this. My x-intercept is the point 5, 0. And I can use my slope of 2 to go up to right 1. I can also go down to left 1. And after I do that, I can see that my y-intercept is down at 0, negative 10. So we don't have to convert. From here, we could see our equation would be y equals slope times x minus your y, or plus your negative y-intercept. So we could start with that, or you could solve for y over here. Problem 5, again, we have a point and a slope, so we could just plug into point slope, but we don't have to use point slope. Or convert point slope, I should say. Oops, sorry. So we have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So we are practicing plugging in. Y plus 4, my point becomes the opposite, equals my slope of 2/3 times x minus 3. And then again, we don't have to convert, so let's just use that point. The point 3, negative 4 is right here. And then slope of 2/3, so up to right 3, up to right 3. We can also go down to left 3. And I can see that my y-intercept is down at negative 6. My x-intercept is over at 9, 0. And then the slope of 2/3 was given to me. Okay, and for the last problem, Emery has X books that weigh 2 pounds and Y books that weigh 3 pounds each. The total weight of his book is 18 pounds. So standard equations, remember that's when you have AX and BY equals C. We have information about X and we have information about Y, so we don't just have Y equals or a point and a slope. Standard equations are almost always used in word problems. So for this, we know 2 and x go together. We know that 3 and y go together. And we know that this is going to equal our total of 18 pounds. So he has some amount of books that weigh 2, some amount of books that weigh 3, and he has a total of 18 pounds. Now, unfortunately, with standard equations, we do have to solve for y in order to graph. With point slope, you're given enough information to graph, but with standard equations, we are not. So we have to solve for y. We subtract 2x from both sides and get 3y equals 2x plus 18. And remember, 2x and 18 are not like terms, so if you want to not line them up to help you remember that, that is totally acceptable. And then in order to continue solving for y, we divide each piece by 3. So when we solve, we have negative 2/3 x plus 6. So that's going to be my slope-intercept form. And so I have my slope with x, my y-intercept as b. Can't find my x-intercept until I graph. So I go up to 6, plot a point. use my slope of negative 2/3 to go down to right 3. And I can see that my x-intercept is over here at the point 9, 0.